I'm working on my Joe Here project. Feel free to chime in and just like say your hellos and all that other fun stuff while I get working. So, you know, the usual stuff. Just I'll be working on this for a little while and then I'll probably stop for about like an hour and all that stuff. As soon as I find all my tools and sort of I should learn to be a little bit more prepared for this stuff than I usually am. Let's see. Ah, there's that. There's the tool I want. All right, there's that. And yeah, so other than that, just been working on a few stuff here and there. I wonder if I don't know if my music playing? Okay, let's see. I'm gonna check my stream for a second and see how that is going along. One second. Okay, that seems to be working pretty well. Alright. So I'm satisfied. Now I'm just gonna do one last thing to kind of complete the ensemble. Where's the chat? Making sure I don't have that robot down. We could go a little louder.
Nye Comics. Hi.
Okay, I think that's pretty good right now. I don't see any other problems with that with my streaming system and also maybe just for entertainment I'll also add my TV screen.
Weird random historical facts. Fun Japan fact. The public holiday law of Japan states that if a public holiday falls on a Sunday, the following working day will become a national holiday, known as the substitute holiday. Likewise, if a working day falls between two national holidays, it will also be declared a holiday. It's called the Citizens' Holiday. All featured content shown was provided with permission from the content creator and was submitted by the viewers.
sequence.
Ink.
It'll culminate with landing on the landing pad in Boca Chica.
Come on, Boca Chica, Boca Chica. Oh, yo, new angles. Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
High-tech rocket.
Damn. Oh. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Holy shit. Success. Witnessed. What the fuck?
How do you know this?
I met your grandmother about a year and a half ago at a funeral.
What
I
are
started freaking
what,
the
what
fuck
what's
out.
the town? What's the town?
The town
In Italy.
that they grew up in?
Yeah.
You really think I don't know?
Okay, so say it.
Poli Avolturno.
Wait, you might be telling the truth.
Yeah, you're shaking right now.
What the fuck? Wait.
No way.
I'm
Wait.
related to you, dude. I'm telling you.
Wait, what the fuck?
Yeah. Poli
I would
Avolturno.
not
I met your
expect
I met your grandmother. Yeah, at a funeral. It was a while back. It was actually right before the right before your guys' first ever championship.
Huh.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
What the fuck?
This guy said, "What's the town?" Like I don't know.
Wait.
I'm telling you, dude. I think you met my brothers at like a place like 2 or 3 years ago.
The board has voted and they are unanimously and overwhelmingly looking forward to bringing you on to the governing board. So, I've been voted into the governing board for Make-A-Wish. It's a very long process. They do a super thorough background check. So, I'm clean, which is good. But I had a long conversation with them yesterday, with them and BJP, which is kind of fun. So we're talking about what to do with some streamers to make something happen for Make-A-Wish, which is really cool, and they want to get kids involved, which is fun.
Gun down to your left.
6.
6 both.
Enemy remaining.
Oh my god!
Dude.
Yo, that was so nasty.
Dude, no, you can't do that.
So sweet. She's snoring so sweet to my story. Let her be. Used to work at the hotel in the scrambled eggs are pre-bagged and the meat is frozen. I mean, I'm sure it's not the healthiest thing, for sure, but I like breakfasts. Yeah.
Y'all, it's pretty easy, in fact. 'Cause you don't gotta worry about it, you know, messing up the background. Heck, maybe we want to do a little bit of this. You know? It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Like, and that didn't mess with the background at all, did it? No, it didn't.
Sorry I left the stream for 3 or 4 months. I assumed he had had it by now. Yeah, sorry you couldn't watch the stream for a while, I know. I'm also sorry that I've not achieved any of the goals that you thought I would achieve in that time.
Tired of your bullshit! Shut your fucking mouth!
And yeah, no, I hope you have a great day and a wonderful week, my sir. All the love in the world.
Fuck you!
So salty.
Fuck you just say to me, you little shit!
Sounds like PTSD right there.
And welcome back. Give us some welcome backs in the chat, please.
I'm broke.
Alright, well, I guess. Well, appreciate the help.
Yeah, appreciate the help, man.
Burger flippers that make more money than the chief judge. Think about that for a second.
Yeah?
Well,
You know what I heard? You know what I heard? I heard that there's kids out there on the internet that pretend to be judges that make 5 times the salary of real judges. Can you believe that?
Not this judge.
Alright, now how to get to the second half.
some female streamers do things really sets other female streamers up for bullshit. And it fucking pisses me off. Like, I'm all about getting that bread. I am. I really am. I'm like, yes, queen, do the hot tub stream, but please don't do it on Twitch. Because it makes my life miserable. Because then I have people coming from your chat where they see your hot tits covered in bubbles to my chat asking to see mine. But we don't do that here.
Because that boss, I like a dummy, died right off the bat on that 14 that we did. Remember, Rip? And gosh, he healed you guys and DPS'd. He flies around there and hops around there like he's on crack. And I know he's not, but he plays so good. All of you do. Well, he does.
Chat, you're so stupid.
He looks just like him.
No. No. No, I don't. Are you fucking kidding me? All right, hold on.
Enemy removed.
One close, one close.
Rest.
To your left, Sage.
3 down.
One enemy remaining.
Must I do everything?
Chernobyl is back in action, boys.
We're walking backwards. I'm really scared I'm gonna hit. What? You watch? You're my fan? Yeah, you're birthday today, but yeah, it's my birthday. Wait, really? Wait, me too. This is Tiffany. This is Tiffany. You're a birthday, but you are wrong. It's so poor. So I come here watching this. Wait, thank you so much. Wait, holy shit, wait. Can I open? Yeah, of course. Oh my god. Wait, holy crap. Wait.
Dude, I don't know. I'm actually.
My ex.
I need to be right back and
Whatever.
Maya knows English, guys. Oh my god. Maya,
My
teacher.
ex.
I need to be right back and
Whatever.
Maya knows English, guys. Oh my god. Okay, be right back. She knows it. No way she knows what's be right back.
Say goodbye.
Bye, Emmy.
Wave bye to him. Is she trying to say bye? Say bye. Did you guys hear that?
They're gonna hate me. Miskip deletes clip on .esport. Alright. Alright, look. It was too much drama. I didn't want to be involved.
Baby, look at them craters.
Ooh, full moon.
I like your craters there, Moon. You looking fancy. Oh, yeah.
Energy looking primed for 12 unless someone can.
Asuna. Getting snappy with it. Poured out by fucking Android, not Android. I can't think for some reason.
Does he get a timing here into Android?
Oh, unlucky.
My
God.
The kill. Asuna for 3. 2v2 situation. Now it falls on the shoulders of Asuna. Would have to be an ace.
Why? What?
Information. Finds the fourth. Knows where the last player is. Paint Shell's trying to push him out, but can he actually find the kill in time?
Halfway and get off it. You have time, get off of it.
To get at least to halfway in the defusal.
Oh my god, he's got it. Oh my god.
Oh my.
Keeps 100 thieves not just in the
Okay, that is the turning tide of this match.
I think it's all over. Someone wanted WAP. I can do WAP, but my mom's home, so I gotta be quiet.
Nope. Not gonna do that. Let's see. I'm curious about the red
They
effects.
created Dungeon Alchemist, an AI-powered map-making application that allows you to make awesome-looking maps with just a few clicks.
We are in a simulation inside the simulation now, where we can affect the top-level simulation. What are some modern-day cults that kinda fly under the radar? Apple. It's easy to join, and the next thing you know you have at least 3 devices, and when you try to leave they make it miserable and not worth it. You also get looked down on if you don't have any of the products. Their devices aren't inherently bad, but they aren't inherently good either. At the end of the day, they're engineered products that incorporate engineering decisions, sacrificing performance for noise, upgradability and I/O for thinness and weight. There are pros and cons, and many times the pros win out, but if you refuse to accept the cons you're just delusional. CrossFit feels cultish. I've tried a few times at a few different places and I kept getting a lot of bad advice, but people are still fanatics about it. Crazy high injury statistics to boot. Someone replied, maybe it's just me, but the people I see getting into CrossFit are not decent athletes. Most are just weight room heroes who didn't get enough attention at a regular gym and now need CrossFit to post videos about their personal best for the day. Any of my friends that played college sports would never consider doing something so stupid. PETA. Treating animals well is a worthy goal, but they take it too far. From what I understand, they are against having pets. Sorry, but some animals have become incredibly domesticated and have developed a relationship with people and wouldn't do great in the wild. Imagine just releasing all the pugs into the streets. That won't go well. I can't fathom how none of the celebrities or their publishers find out about all of PETA's huge scandals. More likely, they're perfectly aware but know that PETA's branding is somehow bulletproof and it'll give them a boost anyway. The woke cult. I know a lot of people are going to read that comment and see it as nothing more than an attack on the left, the inverse of people who said Trump supporters were a cult. For the record, Trump supporters are totally a cult of personality. But the woke cult is different. It's a leaderless cult, mainly because no one is actually perfect enough to live up to its ideals, so any would-be leaders get tossed aside pretty quick. You could be a disabled black lesbian, but wait, were you seen wearing a large pink hat? Oh no, don't you realize that excludes trans women? How could you be so insensitive? The cult will invent a new label to be offended for if necessary. The more general term for this kind of thing is a purity spiral. To call it toxic doesn't even do it justice, but because in theory it's built around good values. For example, not being a racist, sexist, it's really hard to point out the excesses without looking like the bad guy. Modern political parties. The Trump supporters and QAnon, not the Republican part in general, are wild. When I first saw the pictures of Trump with his body superimposed on a buff man's and the other ridiculous depictions of him, I thought they were a meme or a joke. But it turns out real Trump supporters were posting these images on their Facebook pages. Then there's the actual statue that was erected and people actually worshipping him as a god. I've never seen that kind of thing before for a presidential candidate. That in itself isn't so bad, but it's also intertwined with abject xenophilia and people willing to harm others in support of their idol. It becomes downright dangerous. Jared Leto. I was a really big fan of his band in the early 00s, and there was a call for fans to come to like summer camps, where you could pay to be in the same space as him and the band. It was weird. And they recorded a bunch of vocals at least camps, and oh look, it's largely female voices. Leto genuinely wants his fan base to be a cult. They even had merch that said cult on it. I've also read how he selects which girls get to travel with him when he goes to shoots, gigs, etc. So he's always got an entourage of chosen girls. He's crazy enough that I could picture him just waking one day and thinking, how can I get fans to worship me more? Environmentalists. While environmental problems are a big concern of mine, I try to stay grounded in reality. Yet, this is a topic that seems all or nothing, off the deep end, for many. They tend to combine powers, when convenient, with some of the other mentioned political ideology cults to form a mega cult. I just watched a video on YouTube about the man who created Sleepy Time Teas and the cult he is a prominent leader in. Essentially, we are all descendants of literal colored people, as in red, orange, yellow, blue, purple, etc. from other planets. Adam and Eve were aliens who failed on Earth, and certain colors were more superior than others. But it's totally not a white supremacy cult, guys. Wink wink. It actually sounds like a flimsy but direct rip-off of Mormonism. Except it's subtler than Mormonism, where Despite distancing itself from this in recent decades, black people were thought to bear the mark of Cain or Ham, and were said to have been cowards in whatever Mormons call their prehistory. There's this Christian cult a cousin of mine joined. JMMI, Joshua Media Ministries International. The leader is a self-acclaimed apostle, David E. Taylor. I am legitimately afraid for my cousin. She packed up her life on the East Coast and traveled to Missouri to be a part of their church. I think it flies under the radar because it pretends to be a Christian church. The apostle is very creepy and has been accused by former members that he operates his church on slave labor. To me, he appears to be another narcissist that preys on women. I'm afraid my cousin will be another victim of his. She actually told me she wants to marry him. She's so far in it that I don't know if she'll ever get out. He claims he predicted 9/11 and that he's curing the big cocoa through prayer. He's one of those nut jobs where when I listen to him speak he sounds like he doesn't even realize he's lying through his teeth. If you look up his depositions on YouTube, about misallocation of ministry funds, you'll see what I mean.
What are you doing, John? Oh, okay.
Goop, a wellness and lifestyle brand and company founded by actress Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow is in a league of her own in being a champion of champagne pseudoscience. She recently came up with her list of the current popular disease remedies that include kimchi, kombucha, herbal non-alcoholic cocktails, detoxifying super powders, an infrared sauna blanket, and a $125 Goop branded t-shirt. The ridiculous part is that her podcast has 36 million listeners, so to argue that her influence is not that big a deal would be foolish to say. There are a lot of smart people who fall for it, and it's arrogant to believe it couldn't happen to you. Certain schools of chiropractic medicine. If you look into the history of chiropractic a little, it is pretty wild that some of the more traditional schools are allowed to operate in modern times. The founder was a lifetime conman who claimed to have discovered the science of chiropractic by talking to ghosts. Traditional chiropractic philosophy believes that all sickness is due to subluxations, aka misalignment in the spine. There is also a huge crossover between traditional chiropractic theory and anti-vax messaging, because they believe all sickness can be remedied through spinal manipulation. In lieu of antibiotics they recommend adjusting, aka cracking, infants next to treat ear infections. I'm not saying that there aren't modern chiropractors who view their craft as a portion of more holistic treatment for muscular or skeletal issues, but an alarmingly large number of chiropractors believe and practice as described above. The First Church of Friendbird believes that we live in a simulation, and that 65 million years ago Earth was home to a civilization that understood this and manipulated the simulation to restore species their ancestors drove to extinction. Friendbird was a scientist who determines that the simulation has been reset in the past because of beings inside the simulation causing glitches. Each time the universe was reset, the conditions were altered so that life would be less likely to evolve. Realizing this would happen soon, she destroyed her own species with antimatter. This has the side effect of causing the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs. Friendbird then sent copies of herself into space to seek out other potential threats to the simulation, and waited on Earth for a new intelligent species to arise. When humans started to show signs of advancing in technology, Friendbird invaded their dreams and created religion to slow down man's progress. In 2014 it became obvious that humans would learn to manipulate the simulation soon. So she told the truth to a prophet, and told him to stop human advancement. The plan was for the cult to infiltrate the top levels of government, then engineer a nuclear war. The prophet failed, and in April 2017 Friendbird had to destroy humanity. Because we were spread across the planet and not concentrated in one city in Antarctica as Friendbird's civilization was, it took considerably more antimatter and the surface of Earth is now uninhabitable. We are in a simulation inside the simulation now, where we can affect the top-level simulation. Not sure if this qualifies, but my boss broke up with his longtime girlfriend because she started seeing a therapist. Except, it was a spiritual guidance therapist. You had to pay for higher levels of learning, and basically what she was teaching was that some people on Earth originated as starseeds from outer space. And that starseed was specifically chosen to implant inside a human to provide spiritual enlightenment to other humans. Also, as a starseed human, you are naturally drawn to other starseeds, and when two people have a successful relationship, it's because they're both starseeds and originate from space. The reason humans need starseeds is because the aliens that created starseeds will eventually come to Earth, and the starseed humans will be able to bridge the gap between humans and aliens. They believe that anyone with a strong aptitude for a particular skill must be a starseed, as regular humans don't have the capacity to be so smart on their own. Nonviolent communication. Supposedly a program to learn how to communicate nonviolently. It's a new agey philosophy on which you have to be trained by a certified professional, which costs money. Or you become a certified professional yourself, which costs money. It's all based on the teachings of one Marshall B. Rosenberg, who ticks all the cult leader boxes. I've read accounts of people whose close ones practice it, and it devolves into mindless repetition of what emotions the other expresses and passing it off as empathy. The 12 Tribes. If you've been to a Yellow Deli restaurant, you are supporting them unknowingly. They have it in their heads they need to raise 140,000 male virgins to be sacrificed on 2070 for the second coming of Jesus. You have to own enough property and money to join, or they won't let you in, as everything you own gets signed over to them, right down to what clothes you get to own and where you live, even if you own a home yourself. They don't allow children to go to school and force them to work the farms that supply their restaurant. They also obviously have been charged dozens of times for gross child neglect and violating child labor laws. They are one of the more disgusting groups that doesn't get acknowledged. Also, they exist all across Canada and the USA. The House of Yahweh. It's literally a doomsday cult that has had 4 to 6 failed nuclear doomsday predictions. The founder believes he and his brother are prophesied messiahs, but he went to jail for marrying off underage teens to older men in the group. Oh, and every female follower changes their last name to his last name, I think. The founder also has multiple wives. They have a compound and there is only one road that goes to it, and on all the telephone poles along the road are CCTV cameras. The members also have to pay tithes, and the high-ranking male members have like Old Testament names like Jebediah or Malachi. The founder changed his name to Israel. Any number of economy of belief cult-like groups like Otherkin and Soul Bonders. And Second Life has a sub-community with strong economy of belief behavior. It's where someone says, actually, I'm the reincarnation of Alexander the Great, and most people ignore them. But then someone comes along and says, hey, maybe you are, because I'm the reincarnation of Nikola Tesla, and they get along, they believe each other. And then someone else gets involved, and it slowly becomes more and more appealing to have this weird, but self-gratifying, belief affirmed by more and more people, just in exchange for doing the same for them. And inevitably people then end up internalizing and acting on the belief more and more, since they can get it validated now. And it becomes more and more important to them until the mutual belief is locking them into the group. And then you end up with a social hierarchy inside it, gatekeeping and conflicts, and a sordid mess. There's usually not a single leader, but it can become very cult-like, particularly in terms of recruitment and aggressive response to outsiders not towing the line. Flat Earthers. I doubt most of them believe it though. In my opinion, a big portion of Flat Earthers just want to be a part of a community. I think that is the case with a lot of cults. When I was watching The Vow, they kept showing all this footage of the cult members just having fun. Going on weekend trips, hanging out together, and just bonding. All I could think about was how it just seemed like a group of adults who wanted friends, but felt like they needed some bigger excuse or purpose to get together. Like, they could have done all the same activities, trips and get-togethers without all the gaslighting, brainwashing, isolation, classes, homework, paperwork and general BS. Joe Rogan's most devoted fans. They aren't just fans, but people who turn I heard it on the Rogan podcast into their personality. Rogan has on physicists and comedians and philosophers and soldiers, and, etc. It seems like these guys think that repeating a smart person's words makes you smart. Mimicking a comic makes you funny, you get the idea. Before the pandemic, I'd see them at comedy shows wearing the Rogan Experience shirt and trying to start conversations with people so they could impress them with their deep thoughts and knowledge. The audience of weirdly devoted followers just have a weekly staring contest with this guy. $10 a person to go. It's the College of Integrated Philosophy in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It's been around since at least the 90s. Basically, the leader of the cult just has this staring contest with his attendees once a week for 3 hours and answers the odd question from the attendees. He's on a big screen while hundreds of people watch from the audience. He's the living embodiment of truth supposedly. Things snap into place with the truth he spoke or something when he answers. I don't know, but it's mostly just a staring contest. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to become part of the Radio TTS cult. Click the right box for the cult's playlist. Let us know in the comments what you think about these stories.
Let's drop this mirror thing and all that other stuff.
Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and we've all got games in our library that we look over and just go, yeah, it's alright, but actually the only thing that I like about it can be boiled down to just one outstanding feature. Well, you know what? Let's actually share some of those today, because I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 pretty mediocre video games that were saved by one amazing feature. Number 8, Sniper Elite V2 The Bullet Cam. While more of the recent entries in the series have garnered much critical praise as it fleshed out its mechanics, the Sniper Elite franchise started out fairly limp with a single gimmick that actually did end up saving it from mediocrity. With pretty shocking AI, no real story worth mentioning, and levels being surprisingly linear and enclosed, it all seemed pretty unspectacular. That is, until you lined up your first shot on a target and pulled the trigger. Suddenly, your experience slows to the beat of a hummingbird's wing as you watch your bullet fly across the environment to make contact with whatever you've hit. And if that happens to be a human, then you watch an uber-violent X-ray of their skeleton being devastated by the impact of the bullet. Hit an eye and you'll be able to see it pop like a ping-pong ball, and the less said about a testicle shot, the better. And if you happen to hit an explosive item or vehicle gas tank, then you're also treated to them ripping apart in super slow motion and scattering across the land. But you know what? If it wasn't for this feature being included, chances are fair fewer people would have actually picked up this title. It's no exaggeration that it never gets old watching Nazis innards fly across the battlefield in slow motion. Number 7, Wii Sports, the motion controls. As a collection of minigames, Wii Sports is extremely simple. Baseball, bowling and golf had you do one motion with your hand and then watch the results play out. Boxing required slightly more thought process, but essentially boils down to you flaying your arms and just hoping for the best. Tennis 2 has you performing the same motion over and over again with very little thought. It was shallower than a gold digger and visually looks like a student animator's first draft of their final assessment that just happens to be based on a variety of sports activities. However, motion controls this fluid had never been seen before and blew everyone's minds back in 2006. It's still fun to crack this open and have your gran score a home run as the physics-based fun ensured that this game was never on autopilot and had a variety of outcomes for each challenge. It's extremely possible to bowl the perfect game and then to have an atrocious gutter-infested performance in the next one due to how responsive and tight the controls were. Wii Sports is about as basic as a sport title can get, but the fact that you were the one controlling everything turned it into a household name. Number 6, Singularity, the time manipulation device. Singularity is a military shooter that contains mutants, 2 overused concepts that at the beginning of the last decade everyone was trying to shove down our throats. This combo actually indeed threatened to put off most people. That was until they got their hands on the time manipulation device and you realize this game's true potential. There's a bunch of satisfying things you can do with the gauntlet, such as creating a bubble to freeze time for everything inside, or rapidly aging some poor soldier like the villain at the end of The Last Crusade. You can set massive chunks of the environment back and forward in time for spectacular set-piece moments. But it's actually the smaller details that elevate the gameplay. You have to de-age old items to solve some puzzles and then can lift things with gravity and launch them around. And you can be sent whizzing to another period of history in a heartbeat. But on top of it all, it was just plain satisfying to mow down foes with all of these superhuman time powers that you had at your disposal. So while looking absolutely generic, there was a really decent game just under the surface. Number 5, Dark Sector, The Glaive. Dark Sector absolutely screams I am from the late 2000s from every single pixel on screen. Third-person cover-based shooting with waist-high debris littering the area and a camera zoomed in right over your character's shoulder. It's an old-school extravaganza. And the weapons were all completely unimaginative standard selections of guns that you'd find in any shooter. All that is, except one that elevates this game beyond being mere bargain bin banter. The Glaive. It is a 3-blade glowing weapon that has a massive assortment of uses in this title. Aside from being an awesome chargeable throwing weapon with a brilliant sense of weight and damage, it can also steal enemy weapons and be imbued with several powers and can be controlled mid-flight for precise carnage. It never gets old seeing enemies be cut in half, or get set ablaze, or, if they get too close, get absolutely pied off by this 3-bladed monstrosity. The Glaive is also used in order to solve environmental puzzles as well, giving the game much-needed variety besides the many shootouts. It's eerily similar to the Arkham series, which later used Batman's batarangs to solve puzzles in the same way, but this Glaive here is much more satisfying to wield, and I do not say that lightly. And in fact, you'd be forgiven for barely using any of the normal firearms and just using this instead, because we've all seen the film Krull, and who wouldn't want Krull to be in our video games? Krull! Number 4, Dark Void, the Jetpack Combat. If Dark Void was bound by the concept of gravity, then it would probably be seen as just a rudimentary and mundane third-person shooter. But thanks to the jetpack and the ability to be able to hop into the air and engage in some vertical combat, it becomes so much more than it should be. You can fly freely throughout the vast levels at your leisure with satisfying controls. You can hover to get a better shot at your targets, adjust your speed, and then also smoothly transition to the ground easily. So many games today can't seem to manage this. It feels like the Uncharted series, but with a jetpack. It's really, really well handled here. It's just a bit of a shame that the rest of the game is severely lacking as a result. And you end up walking away from this saying, that was good, but I wish these mechanics were in a kind of better game. Number 3, Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, the environment-focused combat. Now, Dark Messiah is not a great game. It's a typical RPG with basic AI, a painfully average narrative, and visuals carved straight out of an issue of fantasy for dummies. But where it does make its mark is with its undeniably crazy combat, which is far more akin to bar fights than your typical Elder Scrolls-type battles. The whole game emphasizes that you must use your environment to your advantage, to the point where there's not actually a tutorial about how to use your sword, but it will twice tell you how to kick some poor grunt over a ledge. You can make puddles of ice that cause enemies to comically slip and then ragdoll over the edges of cliffs or into hazards, or you could blow a fireball into oil that you spilled to set foes ablaze. You can swing your weapon to break beams of wood or rope to send whatever they were supporting crashing down. It's a massive amount of fun with so many physics-based items in the area that you can use or send scattering by plowing enemies through them. Dark Messiah of Might and Magic is about as generic as a Western RPG can get, but the combat system ensured that it would stand the test of time and be remembered far longer than it probably deserved. Number 2, Vampire, the Living Society. The world in Vampire is alive, and each character has ties to others.
Knock it off.
As a doctor, players must do their daily chores and interact with everyone, learning their stories and tending to their needs. You may need to provide medicine to somebody with a cough or help them with a task, and doing so opens up more options
My
down
cat
the
and
line.
John's cat's
If someone
being a
dies, though, the
shithead to each other.
shockwaves ripple through that society, and an entire district can turn against you
What are
if
they
you
doing?
can't be
Fighting
bothered
with
to
each other.
help them when needed. You get to know every
I don't
patient
think they're
intimately,
playing.
and this isn't even taking into account that you're
Yeah.
a vampire and can even take out troublemakers to make yourself stronger if you so please. You'd be forgiven for simply skipping the optional combat scenarios and living out your life as a doctor in this game, just helping patients and unraveling your own mystery at a leisurely pace. And to be honest, it might actually be for the best because the combat is, well, let's just call it functional, and the visuals are nothing to write home about. And the overall narrative never gets more exciting than the opening chapter. However, when you're going about your daily routine and attempting to keep everyone in check, these issues fade away due to how engrossing the ever-changing world of Vampire is. You can see why it's a cult classic, this title, can't you? And number 1, Split Second, environment-changing events. Car racing games have kind of reached their peak nowadays, I think it's fair to say, as there's only so much you can do with vehicles driving down tracks. Most use the setting or combat to switch things up, but Split Second had the genius idea of combining these things together and forming some of the most spectacular races of the 7th generation. Players can charge up a meter to use their boost, or they can use a segment of it to affect the world that they're racing in and cause complete havoc. It can range from a simple forklift swinging across the track and taking out other drivers, to having an airplane fall from the sky and obliterate all of your opponents off the track. And that's not even mentioning the most impactful events where a player can trigger the entire track to change, such as a cruise liner that you were driving through exploding and sinking, forcing the race to go down to an entirely new route with more fun environmental weapons to discover. Racing games, well, they're 10 a penny, but Split Second managed to stand out due to this one insanely satisfying innovation that sadly never saw the light again in a sequel. And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 mediocre video games saved by one amazing feature.
give it
Hope you
just,
enjoyed
like,
that, and
some-
please let me know what you thought about
give
it
it just
down
some,
in the
like, some
comments
flat
section
look to
below.
it.
As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, or go over to LALD Tweet, that's Loud Tweet, for all of the Live and Let's Dies banter that you know you
Actually, you
want.
know what?
But before I go, my friend, I just want to
Let's
say one
change
thing.
it a
We
little
all
bit.
possess
Make
one
it a little bit
amazing
more-
feature that we should definitely make more
Yeah, I'm
use
not a
of,
big
and
fan of
that is
that
the
angle.
ability to be kind to ourselves, both mentally and physically, because we deserve love, happiness, and success. We all do as human beings, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, okay? Go out there and smash your life goals today. I believe in you, you big ledge. As always, I've been Jules.
Let's see. Let's see. Yeah.
The winner! Are you... What? We both hit the target in exactly the same spot. He simply went second.
No, Robin Hood wins.
Wait, that's Robin Hood?
Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines, but we refuse to let it pass us by. Watch us fly ahead. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. We will be the next greatest generation.
The running generation.
Welcome to the memory game. Let's bring out our first contestant.
Hi, I'm Charles, and I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Yeah!
Charles, are you ready to enter the Hall of Memory?
I am!
Then let's play!
So, what am I supposed to do?
Oh, too bad, Charles. All right, let's bring out our next contestant, Hugh.
Hi, I'm Hugh, and I don't want to play anymore.
You get on in there. Way to use your memory. You remembered that arrow. Oh, you gotta watch those spikes. Here goes Martha. She ducks the arrows and jumps the spikes. She avoids the falling rock. Now she swings over the molten lava. There's that hidden axe. That makes fighting that skeleton so much easier. Quickly through the poison gas. And she's over those pesky saw blades. Martha eats the brownie that's not filled with laxatives. And she's over to the giant piano. Green sleeves, that's it. She's done it.
I did it! Yeah!
Congratulations, Martha. Are you ready to collect your prize?
Yes, I am!
Great. It's right over there. What's wrong? Go on, claim your prize.
Okay.
Now you just have to escape with it.
Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. They instead found her apartment, decomposed body in half-skeleton form. What is the scariest story you know that is 100% true? The story of Mary Vincent always stands out to me. In 1978, 15-year-old Mary was hitchhiking. A man named Lawrence Singleton picked her up. He brutally snatched her, and eventually made her get out of the car. She planned to run, but he noticed, and cut both her arms off. He threw her into a ditch and left her to die. She packed her stumps with mud to stop the bleeding and spent all night crawling out. She eventually makes it to the highway and starts walking, naked and covered in blood. The first car that saw her sped away in fear. The second car was a couple on their honeymoon. They picked her up and she survived. The Lake Nyos disaster. The lake periodically belches a cloud of invisible carbon dioxide gas that suffocates everything within a 16-mile radius. Just imagine swimming or standing near a lake and it just randomly starts fizzing like someone shook and opened a giant can of soda. That's basically what happened. Some lakes have fountains in them to prevent this from happening. This one hasn't. In 1986, over 1,700 people and all their livestock died without even understanding what was happening to them.
This one's the perfect gift for the friend who's been getting a little too comfortable during quarantine, maybe your son, a father, or your boyfriend. In which case, it's really a gift for yourself, ladies and gents. Manscaped, and their new performance package. This all-in-one kit that helps you maintain every bush or forest located below your head. Starting off with the star of the show, the updated Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer. I didn't think I'd ever be so excited over an LED being included onto an electric razor, but here I am confirming it's pretty wicked. Look, I know, this visual isn't pleasant for either of us, but I had to verify that this thing can cut, and cut it does indeed. It's especially great if you grow patchy bushes like I do in the most visible areas. But let's be real, it's for this. And with a 7,000 RPM blade combined with that built-in light, their skin-safe ceramic blades help reduce the chances of nicking yourself. Basically, as long as you go slow and steady, you'll be fine. Unless you're into this, then you do you. If you have really shaky hands, they do include a guard that ensures the blade and your sensitive areas, both physically and emotionally, stay socially distanced. Plus, when you're done, it's waterproof too, making it one of the easiest trimmers to maintain, but that also means bath time just became a little more adventurous. Now, the trimmer itself may be mistaken as another vibrating tool with its ribbed and textured surface, but turns out an eggplant is just very ergonomic too. Oh, it also includes a dedicated charging dock that uses USB, so it makes traveling with this a breeze. Lastly, the blades are removable, which you can subscribe to get new blades sent to you every 3 months. Unless you're pretty hairless like I am, in which case the included blade is more than enough. As an all-in-one kit though, you've also got goodies for after you shave, like a deodorant for your balls. Just because you can't smell it doesn't mean it's not there. And I can confirm that this one does smell like a new car. Or, you know, whatever else is manly. Then for the times after shaving when it can get a little uncomfortable, there's the Crop Reviver Ball Toner, which I can only describe as like a breath mint, but for down under. Honestly, just keep this in your bag and you'll thank me later. A new addition to this kit though is the Weed Whacker. It's got all the greatness of the lawnmower, but designed for the hair hiding in smaller parts of your body. Your nose, your ear, your wherever. As it still includes their skin safe tech, so it's one less thing you have to worry about when sticking it into any of your holes. Finally, they really didn't skimp on the all-in-one aspect. A free storage bag is included with the kit. It's got this pebbled leather look. To top it all off, because it just makes sense, they also throw in a free pair of boxers. And all I can say about this is it's really damn soft. Stretchy too if you need the space. But like I said, a perfect gift for your kid entering adulthood or your boyfriend who hasn't gotten off the sofa since buying the PS5. You'll be doing yourself a favor.
See, just those little details can actually bring it out a little bit more. And when you would try to draw flat and you just do the outside, it does give it out a little bit, but then it's just like all that stuff. I don't think I could actually share that.
John List killed his whole family, wife, mother, daughter and 2 sons. He meticulously planned the whole thing, canceling all delivery services, excusing the kids from school, and even turned the air conditioning as low as possible to preserve the bodies for as long as possible. After he killed them all, he placed the bodies in sleeping bags and lined them up. He then wrote a letter to his pastor explaining why he had to kill them. He then leaves and isn't heard from again. 18 years later he's remarried and doing the same job as before, but this time he doesn't have any children. He's finally arrested after a tip was given to the FBI. Crazy thing is that because he planned it so well, the bodies weren't discovered until a month after the murders, so he had a huge head start and essentially started a new life in the same career and was heavily involved in a new church down in Virginia. Took 18 years to capture him. One of my friends had someone following her home, hiding in the bushes so they couldn't be seen. She booked it to her house, got inside, and he was watching the house from the outside. She called the cops. They come along quietly and got the jump on him. He had condoms, handcuffs, and a knife. When they got his DNA, it turned out that he was linked to a half-dozen snatches in the area. She credits her regimen of running sprints to outrunning him that night and firmly believes she would have been snatched if she couldn't outrun him then. In my town in the early 90s there was a notorious killer that had all of British Columbia, Canada on watch. My wife's mother, years and years before I knew them, had been home alone while her husband was in England doing tree surgeon work. She was in her laundry room when a man walked up from her basement, completely scaring her. She freaked out and said, "What the hell are you doing here?" He said he was friends with her husband and was just coming to see if he was here. Apparently he told him he could just walk in. Which she knew was BS. She was smart enough to tell him that he was just at the store and would be back any minute. He said he would wait outside for him. As soon as he left she called the police, but he was long gone by the time they got here. 2 weeks later, the killer was caught, his mugshot put on TV, and it was the guy in her house. An acquaintance of mine sent his son to triathlon camp in Texas. A week later, his son came back from camp. The next day, the son was complaining of a headache. 4 days later, he was dead. Healthy, happy, fit 12-year-old 1 week, dead the next. Turns out the lake had Naegleria fowleri, the brain-eating amoeba. Nothing scares me as irrationally as already being dead and waiting for your body to catch on. The amoeba needs to come into contact with the top of your nose, so you have to snort the water. Or, if you happen to live in Louisiana in 2013, they weren't using enough chlorine in the water supply, so people using neti pots with tap water were exposed. This is a hometown story that stayed with me. It happened literally right around the corner from where I grew up, maybe a 2-minute drive away. Judy Kirby murdered 6 children and 1 adult by intentionally driving the wrong way on a divided highway in an attempt to commit suicide. She had been hospitalized for depression, but had also just ended a relationship with her ex-husband's brother and was by some reports involved in drug trafficking and fearing an imminent arrest. She picked up her sister's son, who was celebrating his 10th birthday that day. She then loaded her 3 children into the car, supposedly to pick up a gift for the nephew. Instead, she went missing with the carload of kids. A short time later, calls started coming into 911 about a car going the wrong way down the highway at a high rate of speed. They made it about 90 seconds before a head-on collision with another vehicle, driven by a father with 2 children and another child along for the ride. The crash annihilated both vehicles.
Okay,
the only
now time to
survivors
get
were Kirby
ready to
herself,
the
and the
other
child who was along for the ride in the other car. There were pieces of children all over the highway. She was sentenced to 215 years in prison.
Are you an Amazon seller who source your products from China, such as Alibaba? You must be looking for a good Amazon product photographer for your product listing then. Look no further. You are in the right place. Introducing Click Per Box Product Photography Service. We make Amazon product photography professional and easy. With our fast and easy product photography service, our photographers shoot and design your Amazon product photos in our China studio. Simply let your Chinese factory to ship us your product sample for shooting, and we will handle the rest. After your project is done, with your 100% satisfaction, we will handle and ship your product sample to you worldwide. To learn more, visit clickperbox.com now.
Did you know that the average adult has 5 to 20 pounds of toxic poop in their body at any given moment? Seems crazy, right? All that poop just sitting there, rotting away inside their intestines and colon. Is it any wonder that colon disease is on the rise with all this waste just sitting inside your body? Most of this waste contains chemicals that your body rejected, but due to certain issues like constipation, you couldn't flush it all out effectively. So if you're feeling sluggish, bloated around the waist, or even just plain backed up, then give Zupu a try for 14 days. It will clean you out, guaranteed. Click through to read the hilarious reviews about how consistently effective Zupu truly is. It contains the perfect dosages of all natural ingredients that will get things moving and flush out that extra waste you're carrying around. You'll feel amazing when it's gone. As this toxic waste builds up, your body becomes a walking vessel of fecal toxicity. Once this happens, you begin to experience excess fatigue, weight gain, digestive issues like IBS, leaky gut syndrome, constipation, and diarrhea, skin.
Tough to pick just one because there is true evil in humanity out there. Stuff like the Blood Eagle ritual is pretty awful. But in terms of really scary, probably stuff that just kind of happens on accident. Like the story of Kyle Blush. Just awful. He was in a minivan that has one of those back seats that you can push backward to lay flat in the trunk for extra storage space. He went to grab something in the trunk, leaning over the seat, and it tipped backward and pinned him, upside down, against the back of the car in a position such that he couldn't get himself out. He called the police twice. The second time he called and gave them a very clear description of the car. Plush called 911 again at around 3:30 p.m. Police said this time he provided a description of the vehicle as he desperately pleaded for help but couldn't hear the dispatcher. Isaac said the information didn't get relayed to officers at the scene. "This is not a joke," the teen said over 911. "I'm almost dead." He asked the dispatcher to tell my mom I love her if I die. Just a horrible, random accident that could have happened to anybody. This kid didn't go looking for trouble, like he didn't try and go down a chimney or go caving like other people who have gotten stuck and suffocated. He was just reaching for something in his trunk, got pinned, and then was not found in time. Nightmarish for the kid and his family. Nutty Putty Cave in Utah was sealed up in 2009 after John Jones was trapped upside down in a small crevice while spelunking. When rescue teams finally arrived, he had been upside down for so long that his legs were drained of blood. The only possible way to have gotten him out was to break his legs, which would have sent him into fatal shock. He died after being trapped for 28 hours. His body's still in the cave. There was a woman who worked in a science lab who spilled 2 drops of organic mercury on the back of her gloved hand. Those 2 drops destroyed her entire nervous system and brain. There's a lot of terrifying lab stories we had to listen to as graduate students in our safety class. Someone splashed hydrochloric acid in her eye while wearing contacts, which retained the acid and burned the contact to her eye. Eye wash didn't work because the contact was already burned and stuck on. She was wearing safety glasses. Someone got her long hair stuck in some sort of press while working alone at night and it wrapped up her hair and eventually crushed her skull. Images of compressed gas cylinders breaking through brick walls after falling and breaking off their valve. Images of centrifuges rotator axle failing and again, going through brick walls. Tert-butylithium, a highly pyrophoric compound, any exposure to air causes ignition, was being used by someone not trained in its use/safety, it exploded and she died. Have you heard of the Nazi so bad that other Nazis, in particular fellow SS Nazis, constantly tried to get him and his unit disbanded and arrested? No? Well, his name was Oskar Dirlewanger, and his unit was nicknamed the Black Hunters or the Dirlewanger Brigade. Oskar Dirlewanger was an early adopter of the Nazi Party. He had been thrown in jail before for being a pedophile. Eventually, when World War II broke out and healthy ideal Germans were dying in droves on the Eastern Front, Oskar's old pal Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, granted him a command of a unit made up originally of German poachers and eventually German criminals being held in civilian jails and camps within military criminals. His unit was essentially designated as a rearguard unit meant to hunt down enemy partisans, or in most cases civilians in occupied countries. Oskar Dirlewanger SS unit was responsible for many atrocities. Some atrocities so barbaric and bad, other SS units reported him and his unit for atrocities. A few examples, which have been popularized in film, include taking an entire village in Belarus and putting them in a church, locking the doors, and setting the church ablaze. Anyone who tried to escape was shot by machine guns and rifles. This unit snatched, tortured, and murdered its way through Eastern and Central Europe. During the Warsaw Uprising they were sent to help squelch the uprising. One of their atrocities committed was going into a children's hospital, telling the nurses and staff that they were there to secure the church. Okay. Once the church was secure, they snatched the female staff, and some of the wounded and sick female children victims, and then went around shooting everyone. If anyone was found to have survived, they were bayoneted. These guys were so horrible that other Nazis looked down their noses at them, and constantly filed complaints and reports against them, but with no real success. Thankfully, by the end of the war this unit was destroyed and its leaders and criminal soldiers were hunted down like animals. The case of Elizabeth Smart. She was kidnapped, repeatedly snatched, psychologically tortured, and then brought around in plain sight in heavy religious garb. She had brushes with people who could have helped her, but her kidnapper claimed she wasn't allowed to speak in public or reveal her face for religious reasons. The reason she was rescued is because her sister was awake during her kidnapping and pretended to be asleep. She knew she recognized the voice, but it took her 9 months to remember as was a guy that used to do yard work for the family. The police didn't believe her because of the elapsed time, but pursued it to appease the family. I made the mistake of reading about the Anthill Kids cult at night. I don't recommend it. Don't read it while you're eating. Starts of like a typical hippie apocalypse type cult, ends with a lot of mutilation and murder. Here's an excerpt. However, Terrio's pièce de resistance came when one of his followers complained of pain in the abdomen. Terrio forced her to undress, laid her on the kitchen table, punched her in the stomach, performed an enema by shoving a tube up her rectum and filled her up with olive oil. Then he cut her stomach open, ripped out parts of her intestines with his bare hands, and he forced another member to stitch her up. Then, he shoved a tube down her throat and made the other women blow air into it. Unsurprisingly, the woman died the next day. Of course, Terrio as a prophet had the powers of resurrection. This resurrection consisted of drilling a hole in the dead woman's skull. The woman remained dead. A woman named Joyce Vincent died alone in her apartment in London and wasn't found for 2 years. She was only discovered because bailiffs came to evict her from the property and instead found her decomposed body in half-skeleton form. The TV had been on, and the windows had been open, for 2 years. Despite the smell and the noise emanating from the apartment, no one had come sooner and found her. Because of the state her body was found in, they could only identify her through matching her teeth to a photograph of her smiling. Because there was basically no body left to study, no one knows how she passed. Her friends guess it was anything from murder to an asthma attack, but no one can ever know. It's not the most scary story in terms of its gruesomeness, but to think someone can die alone and not be found by their family or friends for so long, especially in such a densely populated city. Neshaber train disaster is something that reminds me how death can come at any moment. A train with 51 wagons of sulfur, fertilizer, petrol and cotton wool somehow broke loose and rolled down the track about 20 kilometers until it derailed in the town of Qayyum, Iran. There were no humans on board. Chemical leaks ensued and authorities tried to extinguish whatever fires broke out. At one point, the whole thing explodes. And it really explodes. The whole town of Qayyum is literally demolished, 3 nearby towns are badly damaged and it was heard 70 kilometers away. The wreckage continued to explode for several days after. Around 300 people died and more than that injured. An earthquake of 3.6 on Richter scale was produced. I'll tell you one that happened to me, or rather, I was witness to. One night, I was out at a bar with a friend I was visiting in New Rochelle, New York. We went outside for a cigarette, and a car came flying past the bar. The car burned through a red light, and started going up this hill that was on a curve. We watched as he veered over the double yellow, and smashed head-on with another car coming from the other direction. Both cars' hind ends lifted up, then slammed down. The car that was driving correctly burst into flames. I ran inside and grabbed the fire extinguisher, then yelled to the bartender to call 911 and say there has been an accident. My friend, a few other patrons, and me ran to the cars. Now, I used to think this was a fictional trope, but I was pretty drunk before this happened, and I swear it sobered me up instantly. I tried spraying the fire, but it did nothing. The fumes and heat were awful, and all we could do was stand back. The worst part was, and this will haunt me forever, was that the woman in the burning car was screaming as she died. My God, it was the worst sound ever. The fire department came and put the fire out. The police took us back to the bar and took statements. I found out the next day in the news, that the car that was not speeding was being driven by a young woman coming home late from work. She was a block away from home, and I think she was either newly married or a new mother. The rotten a-hole driving the other car was some rich drunk sucker. He lost a leg, but otherwise was physically unharmed. I have no clue if he did time, as I left to go back home a day or so later. I remember it being reported on Lohud and Channel 12 News. I was around 11 years old and I woke up in the middle of the night to a man straddled on top of me with his hand over my mouth and nose. He told me to roll over and not scream. I rolled onto the floor and tried to scream bloody murder. I say tried cause when you are truly terrified it can take a second to find your voice.
Hey
My
there.
mom heard me screaming and came in and fought with the guy.
Alright, I'm just making some comic books. I'm doing my story about a superhero with autism. And other than that, I've been just working on my pages and just getting that all ready. How about you? What are you up to?
Hey Jihijman, can you help me with Twitch?
What do you need help with?
Hey Jihijman, I think on my end. Hey Jihijman, I can't hear.
Well, I guess turn on the volume. I'm all high on my
Hey
end.
Jihijman, this streams very well.
Oh, thank you. Let's see.
Hey Jihijman, I mean this is the second stream where I can't hear the streamer.
I wish I could give you a better answer on that one. It's just like, maybe is your, maybe the volume that you have?
Hey Jihijman, it has to be a setting somewhere for me.
Well, you can at least hear me, right?
Hey Jihijman, yeah I gotta turn down everything else in the house.
Well, I think you need to turn down the. I think you need to turn out the volume on your computer so you could actually hear it, or either use your, in my case, just use the little volume thing. Actually, let me see mine. See if it's either just on my end too.
Hey Jihijman, oh it's up. Hey Jihijman, no you're okay, it's on my end.
Ugh, well, geez. Okay. How are you doing today?
Hey Jihijman, no you're okay, it's on my end.
Ugh, well, geez. Okay. How are you doing today? Well, you owe me a follow for helping you out.
Hey Jihijman, I'm sad because of this.
What's that?
Hey Jihijman, I turned my volume so high on the other stream and went to YouTube.
Oh. Let's see.
Hey Jihijman, and got rocked.
That happens. Yeah, so far for me, I'm just going to I'm actually got to get going really soon. I have I had to actually get to work really soon. But since you like my stream so much, feel free to follow me. And here's what I also do. I also have a website. So if you'd like to check out some of the artwork that's right under me, or any of the comic books that I already made, feel free to check me out there. And like, subscribe, and all that other stuff, just to get the stream a little bit more set up, and we could probably talk to each other sometime around midnight or this time, depending on how it is. I really don't have like a full set schedule or anything like that. I just kind of like I just do what I do. I'm actually thinking of opening up a Patreon and just like and seeing if anyone wants to just like donate a buck to just like help out getting the book all together and everything else like that, or just some stuff like that. So what fun things are so like what type of streams do you usually watch? I guess he left or something. Oh well. Well, like I said before, I got to get going. I have work. Thank you very much, you guys, for watching my stream. I know it's like really small. I'm still working on it and just getting it all set up. And not
Hey Jihijman, well I didn't know I had an account.
oh, cool. I'm glad you have an account. But I actually got to get going. Thank you for watching, and watch the stream or go to my
Hey
YouTube account.
Jihijman, till this morning.
Yeah. So head down to my website and just like check out all my other work, and you could just like follow my other streams on YouTube and here. And yeah, I'll try to like also get some photos on Instagram or whatever. So yeah. All right.